It's red. We're live.
And
Yes.
we are live, I believe. We are live, HireMilitary Live with Shantae Hall from Centurion Military Alliance. Thanks for joining us this afternoon, Shantae.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And you can hear everything well?
I hear you great.
Fantastic. So for those that are just tuning in, I am on a never-ending quest to teach myself how to do these live broadcasts. And I think I get a little better each time. And so I practiced with some rookies like myself, with Chris Thorne and Matt Quick. But when I thought it was time to really go big time, I said, well, let's bring on Shantae Hall. With her energy and enthusiasm, it'll be a great session. So Shantae, thanks for joining us this afternoon. Why don't we start by telling us about you? Like, what's your background?
So I actually joined the military at 17. I guess we could go way back to the day I was born. Mom and dad both met. They were in the military. Beautiful love story. But we'll kick all that to the side for now. I was raised as a dependent. My father and mother were both in the United States Air Force, and so traveled all over the world, and then realized when dad got orders to the middle of nowhere, Ohio, mom had gotten out, decided to, play the military spouse role, which has challenges all of its own. So we can get into that later. And we went from living in Japan to living in the middle of nowhere, Ohio. And it was one of those moments in life where you're going through high school and I'm looking at my father going, how did you move us? I was 14 years old from Japan to the middle of nowhere, Ohio, and no military installation around us, by the way. He was in the recruiting command. Mm-hmm. And so I ended up deciding to join at 17. I actually graduated high school early and had finished basic training before my class even graduated. So my father was my recruiter. Lots of lies there. Yeah.
So yeah. He owned that one.
He owned it. My brothers, it's comical because you'll see kind of our I love me wall on the back with my entire military family, but we were all exactly 2 years apart. And so it's always the joke that he was guaranteed to make goal, per those years.
Yeah. He was going to get his family in if he couldn't get anybody else.
He was. So, but my brothers, both of them joined after September 11th, which was very admirable. I was prior. And so I had goals that I thought I was on a strict career path, finishing a college degree. I had joined as logistics, and plans changed after September 11th, as we all know it. And my Air Force days, no jokes with the Army side, but my Air Force days changed. And so while I was in school, enrolled full time, that quickly came to a halt. And then we found ourselves, with rampant deployments, same as any other service.
So you were logistics, then you deployed, and what did you do while you were deployed, though?
So first time building MOBAGs, they give you the random jobs. I was a young trooper. I was assigned to make sure that the A bags, B bags, C bags were all legit. Second time, I was going through those big sea lion containers. That was fun, jumping into those containers and looking at the Army gear that was found. So we won't get into that. One bag had, I think, top ramen. We don't need to talk about the magazines that were in there, and a change of underwear. So, but the very important things, I actually deployed as a combat lifesaver with my last deployment, mm-hmm. and that was with the Army. And again, a game changer for me. I decided when I got back to leave active duty Air Force. I joined the reserves due to being logistics, working in mm-hmm. education and training, deploying with the Army, and realizing that I could do IVs on a dirty warehouse floor. I had a passion for medicine. So I actually became an Air Force medic, and it's something that a lot of people don't know about me. Mm-hmm. But I loved being a medic, and I did that for 5 years in the Air Force Reserves.
So 5 years in reserves as a medic, you decide that, you're not a career airman or air person. Right. And so you get out. And I remember you talking about what you thought you wanted to do in your transition. You had it all mapped out, right?
I did. Yeah.
So what was that? Share the story. Come on. I don't think a lot of people know this.
No, absolutely. So, when I left active duty to join the reserves, I had my strict plan. I was a personal trainer, so I did leave with certifications and licensures before I went into the reserves, and that's one thing that I'm a huge advocate and proponent for. Make sure you know, or you think you know, where you're going. And so, the term that we use with my nonprofit, Centurion Military Alliance, and my doctoral research is positionality, and I bring that up early because I had assessed myself prior to leaving active duty. I had my personal training certifications thanks to the Air Force sending me to San Diego State University to achieve those. So I left, I got a job at a Gold's Gym, loved personal training, and realized really quickly that the high ops tempo that I was used to had kind of slowed down a little bit with the personal training side with Golds. And so I told my family after completing med tech school and the reserve training that I wanted to open up my own gym. And they were very, 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 supportive of that goal. And keeping in mind that if I was going to do that, my father, Dr. Stephen Hall, geared me in the right direction to say, get a bachelor's in business at least while you're pursuing opening a business or starting a business. And thankfully I listened to him because I was very strong-headed, no jokes. But I wanted a degree in kinesiology, and it's always interesting the paths you take. But at the time, my father really guided me, and anyone who doesn't have a mentor in regard to their educational pathways, I highly suggest having a mentor in any capacity. But him as a mentor, he helped guide me to say, Shantae, if you're starting a business, you need to make sure that you have a business backing. You already have the certifications and licensures needed for personal training. Let's work on that degree. So when you go back to the bank the second year, even though you're a vet, you're a female-owned business, you'll get the loan. How are you going to sustain that loan? And honestly, after a year, I didn't want to do that anymore. I got tired of telling people to eat chicken and vegetables. No offense. I don't care what you do anymore with fitness. I want to be fit, but I don't want to sit there and monitor. A lot of times people think they're going to start their own business and they're their own boss. And you realize very quickly, every single person who walks to that door is your new boss. And we can't talk like the military anymore. As a sergeant major, I couldn't say, hey, you're fat, get into shape. It was more, oh, it's okay that you had that cupcake. Let's work together. And so I just found the monotony of it. And what I realized was that was one aspect of my military service. I love the fact that we maintained our physical fitness, but it was one aspect of me.
Right.
And how was I going to progress forward? And so I successfully sold that business and went on to become a director at the YMCA.
Okay, so I think there's an important learning point there for people in that you had this dream, this passion that you thought was your transition. You loved fitness, you loved helping other people get fit, even if it was just in the course of your military duties and your family and friends. And you thought that was going to translate to this dream job of owning your own gym. When you got to the reality, you got to the day-to-day business of managing or running your own business and dealing with customers and all the back end stuff, you realized, hey, wait, this wasn't what I thought it was. And so you had to kind of adjust your transition and go in a different direction. And so you went over to, become the director at the YMCA. Did you spend any time before you started the business? Did you actually spend a lot of time talking to people that ran their own gyms to find out if it was a good fit for you?
And that's the point, right? I had the educational track mentor, but did I have the day in and day out of what it was like to own a gym? And that's where I love what we've been able to create, with the knowledge and awareness that's out there for platforms like yours and the ability to broadcast on LinkedIn, because that number one point is get a mentor. Assess your positionality, look at it. What do you think you want to do? And honestly, Mike, at the time, someone might have told me, oh, Shantae, you have no idea what I go through. But I'm looking at those big gym owners, and I'm seeing the stars, and I'm going, no, they're physically fit. No, look at them, they're doing great. And so would I have listened? And I think that's another point of sometimes with us alpha types in the military. Are we willing to listen? Are we willing to sit down and understand what it truly takes to follow what we think we're passionate about? Because again, I still love fitness, but it's a different side of me, and it wasn't the monotony of the day in and day out for me personally.
Yeah. And that's what I tell people is just make educated decisions. Spend the time, talk to a few business owners if you want to start your own business. Learn what their good, their bad, their challenges, their successes are, where they see their 5-year plan, and at least make an educated decision for yourself. A lot of times I talk to people that are looking at new careers when they transition from the military or transition from one career to another. It's so important for them to talk to people in those jobs and just say, look, what are your days like? What do you do every day? What are your challenges? What are your successes? And I think, so that's why I know we're going to get into the CMA piece of it, but I never actually asked you that question before. If you'd actually talked to a gym owner and said, hey, what do you like and don't you like? So
yeah, no, that's huge. And that's why when you're looking at platforms like American Corporate Partners, and those of us that continue to mentor no matter what on social media platforms, it's critical for your success to first surround yourself with like-minded people and really understand what you think that you're getting into and if that will work for you long term. Again, you still love fitness, but what does that look like? You still love helping people become financially literate, but what does that look like? What are the ins and outs? So absolutely spot on. Get a mentor and get them early.
So, okay. So, I just pulled up my screen. So in case we get some good questions, we can do some live Q&A. So you have your dream, you pursue it, you successfully achieve it, and then you realize that it's not your dream. So you go over to directing this YMCA, which is going to be a lot more engaging, keeps you busy. There's a lot of different things to do. But I know that because of where you are today, that was not your passion.
Yeah.
So you go from there to the YMCA, and then what's after the YMCA?
Yeah. So right after the YMCA, I was finishing up my reserve time. I ended up finding my passion with what I do now. But the point about the YMCA, and I think why it really helped grow my brand, my awareness, and the reason and methodology behind starting the nonprofit that we started was I wore 2 hats. And I think that's sometimes a story maybe I don't share. But as a director at the YMCA, not only was I a director of 122 employees, but on drill weekends, I was also going to drill. Or the 2 weeks a year, I was going to the 2 weeks. And one huge, and this is why my heart and passion for our guardsmen and our reservists is so strong, because a lot of times you're wearing those 2 hats, and I would get to work on Monday and be dealing with the civilian counterparts. And I would think, my God, I just told my troop what to do yesterday. That troop went and did what was needed, came back. We all had dinner together. We all got along. What's going on within the civilian sector? Why are these people complaining about the very jobs that they wanted?
Yeah.
And that's the negative aspect of it, right? But from a positive aspect, not only did I learn so much about what it took to run a nonprofit, the funds that were needed, the business development behind it, the access plan, it all started to come together, and a nonprofit wasn't what I thought a nonprofit was.
Right. No, that's exciting. So you didn't expect that, but life takes you in different directions for a reason. And so that job at the YMCA was what prepared you for CMA.
It absolutely did.
So tell us about CMA. What is CMA?
So Centurion Military Alliance, CMA, is a nonprofit 501c3 organization that was started with my entire family. And it's always the joke. I came home and I started sharing with my father this idea that I had. And my mom got involved. My brothers kind of, what are you doing? My brother's wife, she was a nurse in the Army. They started listening to what I was talking about. And my father, who's absolutely brilliant, was finishing his doctorates at the time. And his doctorates was focused on the mentoring components within the military construct of education, finance, and vocation. And so he said, look, he's looking at me, and rightfully so, going, you've worn all these hats. You're the idea fairy. You come home and you're like, hey, I want to do this. Make it happen. And I'm still this way. I'm very much so the idea fairy. Yeah. I like ideas, and then, hey, go implement. I'm not necessarily the one that can implement. So knowing your strengths and weaknesses, right?
I hear you.
But so we came together and we looked at what the Department of Defense was doing with the Transition Assistance Program. And we understand and we respect the program. We respect the curriculum development by the Department of Labor. We understand the mandates. And we thought, looking at the VA, how can we come in and be a force multiplier for the Department of Defense TAP program? And so obviously that's going to be backed by research. And taking that research, many have gotten their doctorates in the transition space, but this is taking it a step further. This is taking that research and implementing and creating a curriculum. So Centurion Military Alliance, it is right now the only nonprofit organization that is backed by a multidisciplinary evolving and changing due to global demands. So our foundation of our curriculum, and you can jump in, Mike, when you have questions if I'm not making it clear. But what we do is we host workshops across the nation right now near major military installations that focus on educational attainment, financial literacy, vocational proficiency, with our foundation being holistic health, well-being, and resiliency. And so we have the workshop piece, and I'll finish this and I'll be quiet. We have the workshop piece, and then we also have the piece where we come in and we support professional military education, and we support the military's professional military education platform and what they're teaching. Right. So there are two folds to what we do.
So I'm going to summarize it a little bit for the crowd. So your dad, it was a retired Chief Master Sergeant, right?
He was actually a retired Master Sergeant. Master
Sergeant, so a retired Master Sergeant. I'm hoping to have him on someday. He's also the Director of Veteran Programs for the City of Houston right now, right?
Director of Veteran Affairs.
Veteran Affairs. And so, you know, he transitioned. He moved you guys all over the world. And he goes out, gets out, he gets his doctorate, his PhD, and his thesis is about the transition. And so working together with you guys, you developed a curriculum that basically covers all the aspects of the transition, not just getting a job, making sure that you're financially prepared, making sure that you have the education and the certifications necessary to be successful in the ultimate transition, and then finding the right career for yourself. And then, you know, behind that is all about, you know, taking care of your health, your fitness, your family, your resilience. And you guys teach these workshops all over the country. And you also support the professional military education, at least I know, for the Army and the Air Force, correct?
That's right.
And I'm going to see if...
Oh, you muted. Oh, there you go.
And I'll share that later. We can actually give the link, but the schedule. So let's talk to us about CMA. So CMA, nonprofit, you've got some sponsors, you're doing these workshops. Big things in 2020. I know you've grown a lot in 2019. Talk to us about what's coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you share that picture, you muted yourself.
I noticed that.
So just so everybody knows, it was muted for a minute, but we will share the 2020 schedule.
I'm still learning.
Yeah, and that's together. This technology thing, and you know, that's why CMA exists, because it's understanding.
To teach me how to use social media, right?
We're a globally technologically advancing world. We got to be running.
All right, Shantae, we know it's your brother. So let's move on. Your brother does all the tech. So
my brother does all the tech. Yeah.
So, all right. So 2020 CMA, I know you've got big things going on. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So, you know, keeping with our charter, the one thing that has been great about CMA is since we started in 2011, officially becoming a 501c3 in 2013, we have always maintained our charter. And our charter, people always say, well, who do you help? We support our transitioning service members, veterans, spouses, caregivers, and dependents. And what I love, and I say that and foot stomp it, because we turn no one away. And our curriculum does support the military spouses, the dependents, maybe looking, what do they want to do when they get out? What college are they interested in? I've had so many service members and spouses call me and say, hey, is it okay if I bring my children? Absolutely. Yeah. The transition affects us all equally. And you know, and I go in and I call it reintegration, and I'm getting ready to go into why I do that. And I know it's a term that a lot of people don't like. And I know, Mike, you've heard me say it before. It's recruitment, retention, and reintegration is cyclical. And we cannot, as a military force, negate one of those aspects. Now, when I say reintegrate, I say it because for us, we either successfully reintegrate into a culture or we don't. And so I believe that I successfully reintegrated from starting my gym to moving on to the YMCA to starting a nonprofit. I was able to wear many different hats, adjunct faculty at a college. I've worn many different hats and I've been able to successfully do that. Now, each of those moves is a transition. And so, and I know, Mike, you've had transition. You've worn a few different hats as you've successfully reintegrated, but you understood that you're not there.
I'm not quite there yet, but go ahead.
No, we're never quite there, but isn't that's assessing, and what CMA says, we are successful because we're constantly assessing our positionality.
Yeah.
Right.
And Bernard Belliard, what's Bernard's name? Bernard Belliard, just call him Bernard. Belliard, that's it. So Bernard had a great statement. He said, that's not the military transition, that's life.
That's right.
Like everyone's transitioning from one space to another, whether it's jobs, companies, challenges, family, school. It's just life. It's not necessarily the transition. And so, when we talk about people saying they've transitioned, I don't know that you necessarily ever do transition. I feel like I've been successful, but I feel like I'm still growing, and I'm not 100% sure where I'm going to be in 3 to 5 years. What I'm going to be doing in 3 to 5 years. But I know I'm just going to continue to lean forward and rely on mentors to get me to the right place. So sorry, you got me on a sidetrack with the transition piece.
No, but that's, I don't ever want to miss an opportunity. When I say, and I want anyone listening to understand that when I say reintegrate, when I look at you and say you successfully reintegrated, that's because you understand that you're no longer wearing the sergeant major hat anymore. Right. And that's what I'm speaking to. So when I say assessing your positionality, most in my circle know I had a big change this year. I'm a single mother with 2 kids. That's called life. But I successfully understood my positionality. So does my current educational level speak to what I'm doing for employment? And will that employment allow me to be financially stable, which lends to financial literacy? And that's why we teach it's constant assessment of one's positionality. Now, I reintegrated. I'm no longer the rank that I was in the military. And I would say that those that are still stuck within whatever their rank is, whatever it was, that you might want to question, hey, have I successfully reintegrated? Because we're embracing a culture that's constantly evolving, that's constantly changing. New technology, as we've discussed. And you're either going to go with it or you're going to be left behind. Mm-hmm. And that's for each of us to decide and own.
And so that's something you discuss in your workshops. Can you just kind of, in a short overview, talk about what happens in a CMA workshop? Now, it's a one-day event usually, right? Military installations on or close by military installations. You bring in a lot of partners from other companies, universities, HR, recruiters, volunteers. So kind of walk us through a quick overview of a CMA workshop.
Yeah, so first thing in the morning, we kind of go over what our curriculum model looks like. And so we'll really dive into the curriculum. We'll talk a little bit about educational attainment, financial literacy. Huge shout out, thanks to USAA again for this year deciding to sponsor CMA and take us to that next level. My sponsor, we'll talk about that later.
I feel like you should have a USA coffee mug sitting out somewhere.
I should have. Yeah. I'll get on Mike Kelly and tell him to send me a coffee mug. Yeah, all right. But then we'll get into the vocational proficiency piece. And that's where in 2020, and since we're talking about 2020, when you're looking at vocational proficiency and what is that?
Whoa, hold on. You just jumped to 2020.
No.
Wait. Just hold on.
I did.
Shantae, what is the CMA workshop? There's a CMA workshop in San Antonio this month, right?
So I'm gonna go back to what I said.
Good. Then Mike Quinn comes to the CMA workshop.
Yes.
What can I expect to see and tell us in non-PhD terminology?
This is where my brother from another mother and I go toe to toe.
No, seriously, I want everybody to understand.
No, I am. If you listen. All right. So as I said, we're going to discuss your educational pathway, where you currently are. We're going to look at your education. Then we're going to look at financially where you are. And the reason why I said 2020 for vocational proficiency is because our next workshop is in 2020. As a multidisciplinary curriculum, we want to make sure we're relevant with the times. So when we're looking at the vocational proficiency aspect, we bring in subject matter experts like yourself, Mike, that talk about LinkedIn and how to strategize and successfully utilize a tool like LinkedIn and what that looks like for employment. We are partnered with the Society of Human Resource Management on a national level. So we'll bring in HR professionals that will sit down and they will help you conduct they'll do resume reviews and then conduct the mock interviews. We go through the elevator pitch and what that looks like. We talk about how to successfully go through a career fair, although many of us might be, in a sense, anti-career fair. When you are there, how do you leverage it and how do you go beyond it being just another meet and greet? If you've got a huge meeting like LinkedIn Mill City, love LinkedIn Mill City, Ray, Sammy, big shout out for them. But you go to these events, what happens after?
Right.
So, what's the follow-up? It's great that we had a drink together. It's great that we connected on LinkedIn. Are you creating intentional relationships that will last? And I think that would be a testament to us. We met on LinkedIn through, I believe it was Vanessa. I think.
Yeah. I think you guys gave me a call. He's like, can we hop on a call? And I was just getting started as, on LinkedIn. And we talked and we just realized that we had so much in common. Then you guys were out here. I remember we went out to dinner. Wasn't that the first time we actually met in person?
Yeah.
With Martha. With Martha McPhee and
Chris.
Chris was there. That's right. So and we realized, through those follow-up conversations and the meeting in person that we had so much in common that it became a relationship that it is today. So let me see what I hear. You come into a CMA workshop. It's a mixture of classes, engagement with subject matter experts, and practical exercises in one day to kind of give people the foundation they need to reintegrate effectively. So, you'll get some classes on how to manage your finances. You could get some one-on-one support on that if you need. You get some classes about finding the right education and making sure that you pursue the right education, because we know that not all degrees are created similarly. Not all schools as well. We've all seen some of those articles that have come out. And then what I truly think is special is I remember going to a few of them and seeing like this group of volunteers, and people actually go and do mock interviews with recruiters, HR professionals, employers. They actually go and practice elevator pitches and get real life feedback. And these are also many people that are also hiring. So there's a great opportunity to keep that relationship going. And every once in a while, this cool person comes and does LinkedIn profile reviews.
That's right.
And when he's not available, Michael Quinn comes. So, just kidding. But okay, so we've got CMA workshops. I know you were involved in building a curriculum for the Sergeant Major Academy because you said you do have an actual curriculum and you're actually working with the Air Force for as well, teaching at the Senior Enlisted course, right?
That's right.
So we're running out of time. These can't go too much longer. We got about 10 more minutes before we lose everybody. Trust me on this one. So 2020, what's big, what's different, what's changing?
Yay. So in our ability to target facilitating access to the resources nationwide, we've had numerous requests in the past from CMA participants saying, we'd like a workbook. We'd like something tangible to walk away with to understand. And so this year, CMA has developed, and I'm so excited. But every single CMA participant in 2020 will walk out with a complete detailed self-assessment workbook. They will actually be able to see where they are, where their positionality is in regard to our pillars. And as part of CMA's ongoing research, the self-assessments, they're going to shed light on areas of improvement to better inform our case management efforts. And our case management platform, it's going to enhance our ability to target these other resources nationwide that our servicemen and women, our military spouses, our dependents will need. And it's just CMA participants, they're going to be able to prioritize and manage the access to the desired resources versus before where, you go to these workshops, I tell individuals all the time, they're going to look at me and they're going to say, Shante, why the self-assessment workbook? And again, it's going to be up to each individual participant to give us that data and to want to be a part of this continued research. But it's a conversation I just recently had with a good friend of mine, Jason Renzoroni. We always mess up last names. But he wrote a book, Beyond the Military. And there's a lot of individuals, and I say this because we see it on LinkedIn all the time. So-and-so did their doctoral research. So-and-so wrote a book. It's being sold on Amazon. That's all great. And we're thankful for all of your research. Very positive. We're one team, one fight. But what does that self-assessment look like? And for me, I can sit at home and read a book. There are all these self-help books, but how am I going to implement that? How am I going to make a change? How am I going to be able to access and facilitate resources on a national basis that will support my successful reintegration and my family's? So we've created this workbook to hopefully, as we start to look at within my own doctoral research, my whole goal is to be able to look at this and showcase and highlight how holistic health, well-being, and resiliency is 100% a part of our 3 pillars, and hopefully to ultimately combat that 22 veterans a day.
So you're going to have a workbook that they're going to get and they're going to work on while they're at the event?
That's right.
And it's going to have stuff they take home and continue to work on?
That's right.
It's going to be paper, or is it going to be digital?
It's going to be, well, right now it's in the form of a workbook.
So you're going to print out and hand people workbooks.
Yes, sir.
But I'm guessing, hint, 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 it will also be available digitally to those that want to take advantage of it, right?
It will be on HireMilitary website.
Okay, perfect. Absolutely happy to share it. No, fantastic. That's what I want to be. And on the CMA website as well. So
Yeah,
people can download it. And I'm guessing you also probably, if it's a really good, thick, in-depth workbook with some actionable plans, you could probably make it available for purchase if people want to buy a hard copy and let like Amazon or somebody else do all the work for you. I'll work with you on that. So not for me, for you. I mean, we want to make sure if it works, we want to make sure it's available to everybody.
Absolutely.
Right? And,
Absolutely.
And Shante Hall can't foot the bill to pay for, 245,000 workbooks to send out around the world.
No, but thanks to USAA, a huge shout out again. They have agreed to print.
Yeah, but USAA Mike's still only going to pay for 10 or 15 or 20,000 of them, right? So yeah. I'm just saying, at some point, even if you just do it at cost, to make it available once you get it out to people and practice it. So they're going to get a workbook. I'm excited to see it. Send me a copy. I'd love to take a look. And I will promote however I can because I love what you guys are doing. So 2020, we got a workbook that's going to be something to continue working on. What else?
And you just showed our schedule. We've got a pretty hectic travel all around schedule. And it looks like for the first time, CMA will be going Oconus. So installations that I know, thanks to GE Healthcare, they have actually asked us to travel with them Oconus, and we'll be looking at those 2 locations this year. So Germany and Italy. Yeah, so for those that aren't able to see it, because I know it's kind of small writing, we'll share it in the comments. But we're looking at just in January 17th at Fort Bliss, January 29th at Colorado Springs. Then you've got February San Antonio, you've got Houston, San Diego, Hobart Field, Florida, Fort Bragg, Fort Gordon, Camp Pendleton, JBLE, Langley Eustis, right? Yes. And then Hood, Huachuca, JWL, Joint Women's Leadership Symposium. Great. I'll see you there. And then Ramstein, Germany, Naples. That's exciting. Hawaii. So, yeah, so you really are going to a lot of different locations. Yeah, yep, we're excited. But, more importantly, again, it's, Mike, last night I was on LinkedIn and I'm looking at some of the profiles, still seeing people connect with me. It says transitioning service member, transitioning officer looking to transitioning. And so that shows me that even with our platform of LinkedIn and the workshops and getting the word out, that we've still got so much work to do. And I'm just thankful that as a nonprofit organization, we can come in, not charge. We're always here to support and help, as well as our volunteers that come in. Our volunteers are at no cost. They come in and they support. And we're here to make sure that we successfully reintegrate. Why do I care? Because I'm looking at my children, my littles going, how, if I am not successful, how am I going to ensure that the future of this great nation remains successful? And that requires a strong military force. So ultimately, it's that family legacy that I believe in, Mike, of recruitment, retention, and reintegration.
And in about, 10, 15 years, your dad's going to walk them into an Air Force recruiting station.
That's right.
Well.
No, Space Force. So my daughter actually
Oh.
told me, my daughter told me, she is 6 years old, and she said, "Mommy, I'm going to join the Space Force." And she said, "Were you scared of the Air Force? And were you?" And I said, "She goes, am I going to have to go into space?" And I said, "I was in the Air Force. There's air everywhere." And she kind of just looked at me, and I said, "Baby," I said, "there were times where Mommy was scared." I said, "But yes," I said, "that's part of us being strong and supporting and serving our country." And she said, "I can do it." So.
Yeah. And I believe it. I mean, and part of that family, absolutely. So, okay. So CMA 2020, we've got a workbook. We've got an expanded curriculum. I believe you're actually doing events on a special non-workshop event as well, right? You're doing a career fair, right? Not a career fair. It's a summit or something different.
Yeah, so CMA is so excited. Fort Bliss actually came to us and they asked us to host their first transition expo ever. So that will be in May at Fort Bliss. I believe the schedule says May 12th to 14th.
Yeah.
If I'm right.
Oh, that's the first annual transition expo. Okay, hold on. Yes. So it says May 12th, 2020, Fort Bliss, Texas, first annual transition expo. Okay. What the heck is a transition expo? And why is it different than any other job fair or summit or whatever?
You know what? I am extremely.
And hopefully I'll be there.
I hope you're going to be there. This is one we need all boots on the ground. So I'm hoping that you are going to be a part of that. This first ever transition expo. I know Fort Bliss. Doug Piltz is the transitioning service manager. Their team came up with the name. I'm 100% supportive and behind what the name is. But our first meeting for that will be January 16th at Fort Bliss, and more to follow. So we'll find out what's going to be new and innovative this year. But I know, like every other year in the past, that they've hosted summits. CMA has come in and kicked off those events. And so it's going to be the exact same this year. CMA will come in, kick it off, so that expo will bring in subject matter experts like yourself, Mike, to come in and be able to teach LinkedIn. The big difference this year, and I know what Fort Bliss has really pushed and launched, is like the CMA curriculum, anybody that we bring on to our team, anybody that we put in front of you to speak, better have the certifications, credentials, and been successful at reintegration if they're speaking on behalf of the military service to the military service members. Mm-hmm. And if you haven't successfully reintegrated, then my friend, it's time to kind of take a look again at your own positionality and assessment, and come to grips with reality that maybe you're not the SME on that topic. So I'm thankful again for Fort Bliss looking at this and saying, we want to ensure that any of those that attend are subject matter experts. And when they have access to our 3,000 troops transitioning this year, those troops will walk away with an understanding of why their successful reintegration is so important. And some of them might realize that they need to stay in, which is why CMA is successful at retention too.
Trust me, if I get a hold of them, I'll scare them back. I'll scare them back into the military. I mean, if you really have people think about what's next, a lot of times they don't have the education or the certificates, or they're not ready financially to get out and take care of a family or even just continue at their standard of living. So I get it. And I think it's exciting that Fort Bliss is leading the way with this, being that it's home of the NCO Leadership Center of Excellence. I know as the Sergeant's Major Academy. So, I spent a year there, and it was a fantastic year as well. So seeing the installation with the home for the Army's NCO professional development system, basically leadership professional development, just makes sense. And Doug's a retired Sergeant Major as well. So it's exciting to see that as well. So any idea on the amount of employers, or, will there be, you think it's going to be a hiring event as you talk about a transition expo where some employers are going to walk away with hires, or people can walk out of there with order offers, or are you gonna, what else?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, CMA comes in the day before, and the installation runs this event. So this is not CMA comes in the one day. I am here to work for that installation and support that installation's initiative. But there will be employers on the spot with the ability to conduct live interviews, set up career fair style, but also there will be separate rooms needed for those. We can work on, again, working with the installation, looking at if those service members are ready ahead of time and they send me their resumes. I know Microsoft, for example, they love coming out and conducting interviews, live interviews, but they need to preface to that where I need to send them the resumes ahead of time to make sure that they can qualify those candidates. But yes, live, and then also mock interviews, resume reviews, things of that nature will be going on those 3 days.
And I understand, can I assume that other nonprofits will be welcome to attend and participate as well?
So, and thank you for saying that, because this is the great thing. So, CMA is really excited to launch this, and you laugh. But so when you look at that schedule and you go, Shantae, how are you doing this? So first of all, USO, phenomenal. Thank you for supporting. The USO has actually come in and said, hey, when CMA comes out, we want to support, because what we realize is we all bring something to the table. I have a curriculum. I want you to use the curriculum. So we partnered this year with USO for a couple events. Onward to Opportunity, we have partnered with Onward to Opportunity with all California, Texas, and Texas events so far.
What about Bragg?
At Fort Bragg?
Yeah.
Well, I'm open to that. I have not met the Fort Bragg individual, so that's what you're for.
We'll follow up with Kenneth after this.
All right, good.
I mean, he's super cool. And then Norfolk, are you in Norfolk?
Yes.
Your debut? I mean, I can connect you with Gucci as well. So let's do that. Those guys are awesome. So fantastic. So USO, Onward to Opportunity. But if there's a nonprofit out there and they want to come support, I know that you said 3,000 service members going to a transition expo. If a nonprofit wants to come in there and just join and roll up their sleeves and help, can they just reach out to you and see how they can participate?
Absolutely. I'd love to. And again, our first meeting for that will be January 16th. I don't want to forget, I know I said the mentoring component earlier, but American Corporate Partners is also one of our partners. And I cannot forget Timothy Cochran. I love you guys with all my heart. The work you're doing is phenomenal. And I think that's, 2020, I keep saying this when you look at that vision, but it's a year of clarity and perspective. And to understand that we cannot combat this alone. We have to look at it being one team, one fight. And if we don't start collaborating and collectively coming together to strategize these events to make sure that the word gets out, Mike, we're going to keep seeing those LinkedIn folks pop up of transitioning service member, and no one's looking for a transitioning service anything. So again, collaboration is key, and I just ask that as we embrace 2020, clarity and perspective, and how can you move forward? Don't do it alone.
Yeah.
Don't do it by yourself.
I think that there are some major nonprofits out there that are doing amazing things. There's some smaller ones that are doing amazing things, but nobody's doing everything that transitioning force, and that includes military spouses, needs to be successful. And so if we're ever going to really move the needle on this in either service members, veterans, military spouses, it's going to take collaboration. And that's why I asked that loaded question. I knew the answer before I went to it. So, hey, Shantae, I always like to try to keep these under 45 minutes. I know you and I could talk for another couple hours about this stuff. We're at 43:39. Your website, it's just cmawarrior.org, right?
That's right.
No dash or anything, right?
Nope. cmawarrior.org.
So I just shared that. We'll go back through and see if there's any questions. Shantae, you can go back on the feed and answer the questions as well. I know we didn't get a chance to take Q&A. Let's set up a time in the near future to talk to you and your dad, get your dad on here. I just think he's super cool, and I'd love to hear about what the things that you guys are doing in the city of Houston as well. That's where you're at, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So awesome.
No one ever knows where I live. It's a secret.
Well, now they do. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Shantae, for spending your afternoon. Chris Thorne just sent me a note that said we were going too long. We're about 4 minutes over our limit. So thank you, and Catch everybody soon. Shante, I'm going to leave this on for about 10 seconds, so look uncomfortable at the screen so we don't
Okay.
go off.